Hello and welcome to the Hoot Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as they do on all of our shows, my cousin Luke Drobner
What's up, guys?
and my brother Mike O'Connor.
Hey there.
And we're back. It's been a while. Clearly, I'm tripping over my words, and that could be a product of having not recorded in a while or the raging stomach virus or food poisoning I've had this week. So, apologies for that. But in any event, we're back. The NBA season is almost over. There's like 2 or 3 games left for each team. So we're back. We figured we'd do a little primer on what's about to happen in the playoffs. Obviously, seeding could change slightly, but for the most part, figured we'd start getting into it. But yeah, so I guess the way we'll kind of go about this is we'll take a look back before the season. We created a chart, or I guess just a different graphic of our predictions of where what the standings would look like at the end of the season. So we figured we might as well take a look at that versus where we're at now. And just see how we did, and then also just talk about how the layout in both the East and the West, and we'll go from there. So, all right, I've been rambling. Yeah, all right.
Funny, I without even looking at the spreadsheet, the one thing that I know you're gonna blast Luke and I for is how high we had the Kings.
You guys had the Kings high or the Grizzlies? I think we had the Grizzlies high.
That's the one I remember. I also, maybe I'm misremembering, but I think I had the Thunder higher than both of you.
You did. No, there's a few that I had wrong, and I'll admit to that. My Mavericks theory was very wrong. Yeah, so there's a few things.
You guys see me? See the screen?
Yeah.
All right,
Amazing.
cool. We are in. All right.
Yeah,
So
you guys were bullish on the Hawks.
I mean, they're in the play-in, but yeah, not the best we've done, admittedly. So, wow. All right. So, do you want to start in the East or the West? Because both are pretty ugly.
Let's start in the East.
Yeah, I don't like the look of anything we have here. My God. All right. So we did get one thing right. We got Boston as the one. So
But that
I
was
guess we'll go,
obvious.
do you want to go top to bottom or bottom to top? How do we want to do this? I guess
Let's
we'll
do
go with the
top to
obvious
bottom.
one. Yeah. So we got Boston right at 1. They're the runaway. I mean, there's not much to say about them. They're even punting on their last 4 games of the season. They're just resting everyone, it seems like, which
I mean,
deservedly so. They're like 8 games ahead of second.
yeah, I think they clinched the 1 seed like a week ago.
They currently have a 14-game lead on the second place Bucks. And granted, the Bucks are not safe in second, but it's currently what they're at. So if the standings do hold, we did get the Bucks right at 2.
But the Knicks can move up.
So let's talk about the Bucks. I think this is a good segue into discussing what's going on here. Giannis injured yesterday, a weird calf strain, non-contact. Granted, this is the last week of the regular season, and then most of next week is going to be the play-in. I don't think the playoffs actually start until Friday of next week, maybe Thursday. Friday, I think.
I think it's a Saturday, April 20th.
Yeah, so in any event, it's going to be a solid week and a half for Giannis to get right. So they've already ruled him out for the last 3 games of the season. 2 of those are against the Orlando Magic, who are in the heat of things. Do we think that they're going to hold on to the 2? And I'll set the stage of what's behind them currently. The Knicks are a game behind them, and 1 game behind them in the loss column. And then the Magic are 2 games behind them. Granted, they have those 2 games to play, so they could easily flip that if they win both of those games, including one tonight, where Chris Middleton is also not playing. So just something to monitor. So they're 2 games behind, and then Cleveland is also 2 games behind. So there's 3 teams. I'm going to keep the Pacers out of this, even though they're 2.5. Just I don't think that's realistic. There's 2 or 3 teams that could realistically catch the Bucks for second place. Do we think something flips?
I think something could, but I know the East is very tight. I think 2 through 10 is very tight. Like a couple games separate them. And
So
I think Milwaukee is going to drop these games. I think they're in shambles. I think the players aren't enjoying being there. They fired their coach halfway through the season. It's not like Doc Rivers is a huge improvement.
no, it's not.
So
I think his winning percentage is worse than it was with Adrian Griffin.
I think so too. I think it's a lot on the players, right? We've seen a coaching change now. It obviously wasn't the coach. I think, in my opinion, they overpaid Brook Lopez. I think it's great that you believe in him back there blocking shots, but as a Purdue Boilermaker, I understand what it's like to have one of these guys who like just can't move his feet at all on defense, and all he does is just stand at the rim with his arms up. So I think a huge mistake was paying him. It was like a 2-year, $40 million extension. So
You can't just drop that. Like 2 days after the national championship when he had 37 and 10.
Edie,
Come on. Yeah. I mean, Edie was a monster.
he got cooked. I mean,
No, Edie was the only one who played well. No one else showed up. One dude recorded an assist. They made one 3-pointer. It's not Edie's fault.
yeah. I mean,
Sorry,
he
not
could've-
to totally digress, but come
Can we
on.
be negative?
I'm-
Can we be negative on? I think is Dame not the issue?
Dame is, I think he never bought into this. Ever since he got traded here, he was not thrilled. You could tell. And you could tell the personalities just aren't gelling. Like, I think he is like totally rubbing with everyone else in the Bucks. And I just think the chemistry with him and Giannis isn't quite there. And I don't know. I think bringing in Doc Rivers mid-season was a Hail Mary, and it clearly hasn't paid off. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to have to do. And if they get an early exit this year, yikes.
Vibes top to bottom are just wrong, right? I really think that they tried too hard to make a huge change and it didn't work.
But isn't it crazy that all these things are going wrong and they're the 2 seed? Like for now.
Yes, but that's also because look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference. There have been so many injuries to every team except for the Celtics. Literally just go down the list. I mean,
Sixers, Knicks.
Well, I'll go down just in order right now. The Knicks, obviously, Julius Randle's out for the year. OG missed like 30-something games.
And Randall's been out for a long time.
Mitchell Robinson missed 50 when he was off to a hot start. The Magic haven't had a ton of injuries, so I'll just gloss over them. But then you have Cleveland, who obviously like most of their team has missed time, especially the top of their team. The Pacers, Halliburton missed time, and then he has not looked good since getting back. The Sixers, obviously, without Embiid, Maxi's missed time. The Heat, Jimmy Butler's played like half the season. So, like, a lot of these contending teams, like, none of them have been healthy this season. So, like, I don't even want to give the Bucks that excuse because it's just they've survived, but they don't even have the injury excuse. Like, they've had most of their guys there most of the season. So, like, they should be in second. Frankly, they should have a stranglehold on second. But
it's vibes. They're not gelling.
Yeah.
There's so much change and frustration, and I think everybody in that locker room is upset with each other.
Oh, yeah. And I think, too, especially without Giannis to end the year, maybe it works out. Maybe that's a window for Dame to just play Dame basketball where he's just the guy again. And he goes off a few times and they stave off anyone else and they stay the 2. It's very possible. Yeah. Or they just cave a little bit. And without Giannis doing what Giannis was doing during the season, which is arguably top 5 or so in the MVP race, however you want to look at it. They might crumble a little bit and someone might catch them. So it is ugly. Frankly, that's a team that I would not be afraid of playing in the playoffs, regardless of where they sit. But especially if they can escape the first round, that's an easy second round team if you're one of these like hungry playoff teams.
I could definitely see them facing the Heat in the first round, and it's like classic Jimmy Butler gets an easy first round matchup. He heats up and just absolutely tears apart the East and somehow makes it back to a finals or an Eastern Conference finals or something like that. Totally. I really do think like Boston by far is the best team in the East. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Every team
have they been particularly tested though? They've obviously steamrolled the regular season, and that's fine. But a lot of these contending teams in the conference have been hurt. Have they really seen what they're going to see in the playoffs? I don't know.
Yeah, I think steamrolling the regular season says a lot, right? When you think about like when the Lakers when they won the championship, right? You're a 1 seed. I think the Nuggets last year were very competitive during the regular season as well. So I just think the Celtics have proven themselves across an entire season that they are the best team in the East. And we knew that coming into the season. Their roster is stacked. Guys we didn't think were going to be exceptional are exceptional. And I just think they have everything going. They're firing on all cylinders. And obviously when you get into a 7-game series, there are still weaknesses to exploit, right? They shoot a lot of threes. Jaylen Brown doesn't really like going left, things like that. So we'll see. But I do think they make it out of the Eastern Conference. Like,
so now I agree with you there. They're far and away the favorite. And I think that's something that it would be hard to argue against that. So let me pose a question to you, only just based on the way the landscape is shaping out here in the East. Realistically, 2 through 5 is going to be some combination, unless something weird happens, but 2 through 5 should be either the Bucks, the Knicks, the Magic, or the Cavs. That obviously could change. The Pacers are a half game back of the Magic and the Cavs, so maybe they can jump. I mean, the Sixers only a game back of the Pacers, and then the Heat are a game and a half back from the Pacers. So again, it's very fluid. A lot can change. Assuming 2 through 5 is in whatever order, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Magic, and the Cavs. What of those teams do you think poses the greatest threat to the Celtics? If any, you could say it's the Heat. You could say it's the Sixers because now that Embiid's back.
I would love to say that it's the Knicks, but with Randall out, I just don't think they have enough. I don't think we have enough.
No, I mean I would agree with that. I still think the Bucks are realistically still the biggest threat just because of the talent they have on paper.
100%.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it's the Magic. The Magic do have size, and I think they would match up well with the Celtics, and they clearly are striking a good chord, and they're playing good basketball, but they don't have the experience. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the thing holding them back.
And part of the reason why they're up here so high in the standings is because the beginning of the season, when they got out to that incredible start, they were like the 2 seed or something like that. They were winning a ridiculous amount of games. Obviously, they're very talented. Paulo Banchero deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Franz Wagner, also very good. And I just think they have a good group of guys. And but they did get off to a hot start, and they've kind of slipped a little bit here in the back half. So I think they're going to struggle a lot in the playoffs. It's one of those teams, they might be the 4, and they'll get matched up against Cleveland, and they'll be the 4 seed that gets upset. Or even if they are up at 3, which I think at this point, looking at the standings and the remaining schedules, I think the most likely scenario is Bucks at 2, Knicks at 3. I think the Magic don't have enough to get out of the first round, inexperience.
Yeah, I could see that. I do think it is a gauntlet. It's unfortunate that the 1 and 2, because of the way the injuries have played out this year, it's unfortunate for the Celtics and then whoever lands at the 2, presumably the Bucks. Because you are, realistically, if the standings hold, which there's a good chance they do, you're going to get Philly and Miami as the 7 and the 8 in whatever order. That's a horrible first round matchup, especially because both of them are getting healthy at the same time. Just
if you're the Sixers,
awful.
If you're the Sixers, you're trying really hard not to have to play this. You're trying really hard to make it out of the play-in. What are they at right now?
The Sixers are at 7. And they're only a game behind Indiana. And let me now go back, and I know I texted you guys the matchups, their remaining their games today. The Sixers still have to play the Magic and then the Nets at home. They only have 2 left, but they have 2 games. And realistically, that Magic game means a ton to the Magic, so that one could be up in the air. But then additionally, the Nets really don't have much to play for, and they're probably actively trying to lose. Since this is one of the no, this pick is in their control, so they actually care about this one. So losing actually does kind of benefit them. So I don't know. Let's say, even the Sixers have to go 2-0, and then the Pacers, what they have left are in Cleveland. That game matters for Cleveland, and then they have against the Hawks. The Hawks, realistically,
go 1-1.
The Hawks could catch the Bulls. Actually, they're only a game behind the Bulls for the 9-10. I guess that matters for home court in the 9-10 game. So maybe they are playing for something. Maybe they're not. Trae Young is apparently coming back for his game tonight. Whether or not that helps the Hawks, I don't really know. I think those are just things to look out for.
The Hawks are a blow it up candidate for me.
Well, all the rumors are they're trading one of DeJounte Murray or Trae Young this summer. I feel like it's the worst kept secret that the Lakers want Trae Young. So
I think they have to do it.
Frankly, I think you trade both. If there's a market for everything, yeah, blow it up. Absolutely.
Why not? Just try again.
Yeah, I think you can totally retool it and just you punt. Granted, you do owe some picks to San Antonio in the DeJounte Murray trade, so that's definitely a bummer. But you can live with that. Maybe you trade one of them back to San Antonio. I'm sure San Antonio would want one of the guards to put with Wemby. Maybe you get your picks back.
The rumors in San Antonio is that they're going to try and sign Donovan Mitchell, right?
Yeah, I've seen that too, or trade for him, which honestly would make a ton of sense. Wemby's been fantastic. Not to totally just jump around, but Wemby has been incredible to end this year. Honestly, I said it kind of as a joke, but like he's sneaky playing like all NBA level basketball.
He's been ridiculous, especially post All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the beginning of the year was a little slow, but he's been spectacular. And also just the videos of him defensively of teams are on 3-on-1 breaks and they don't know what to
Yeah,
do.
people
It
don't want to
is
challenge him.
it's staggering. But anyway, we'll get to the Western Conference. Um, so remaining in the East, so I know we went realistically 2 through 5. Then there's kind of the glut between 6 through 8. Because then there's a drop off, and the Bulls and the Hawks are kind of fighting for 9 and 10, and they're both going to end up not making the playoffs anyway, probably. But looking at 6 through 8, if you're one of those top teams that's probably going to make the playoffs, if you're in that 2-3 range and you're kind of trying to figure out, all right, who are we going to be stuck playing? Who would you most want to see out of the Pacers, the Heat, and the 76ers?
Yeah.
I think
As a Knicks fan,
as an anyone fan, if you're getting one of those three as the 6, the 7, and the 8, who would you rather see?
Indiana.
Yeah, I
Indiana.
would have to agree. I think that's the obvious one. And that's why I think no team is openly committing to trying to win the 2 because the Pacers currently sit at 6 and there's a chance they hang on to it. So maybe being the 3 and getting the Pacers, and then let's say you win that, and then the second round, sure, you don't have home court advantage, but at least you had an easier first round series than either Philly or Miami at home. Like,
But then you have Boston.
no, only if you're the 4 are you realistically lining up. If you fall to the 4-5, but if you're the 2-3, then if you're the 2, you're probably going to get, let's say the standings sit. If you're the 2 and you're the Bucks, you have Philly in the first round right now. If you're then the Knicks at 3, you would have the Indiana Pacers at 6. It's kind of a dream scenario for the Knicks because then in the second round, you would have the winner of the Bucks and the 76ers. Hopefully they tire each other out. You don't know. But it's probably an easier path than having to play Miami or the Sixers in the first round. Then, or if I'll use the Bucks in this example. If you're the Bucks in that situation, you have to play Philly in the first round, then a Knicks team that probably beats a Pacers team. That's not an easy series, and then you're gonna have to go to Boston. Good God, that is not an easy path to the finals. It's just not.
no, and I also think, right, like if you're Philadelphia, you want to move up to 6 really bad. Probably unlikely. Pacers' last 2 games are Cavs and Hawks.
Yeah.
I can't help but feel the Pacers are going to win both those games. And the Sixers are definitely a team that can upset 2, 3, 4, 5. They're way better with Embiid, and they're only down there because they missed Embiid for half the season or so.
I mean, I'll point out if the Pacers beat the Cavs, they jump them in the standings.
Wow.
Just something to monitor. You might have Cleveland as the 6, which does kind of change things up when make the 4 a little more appealing.
If I'm the 3 and the Cavs fall to 6, I'm okay with that. If I'm a Knicks fan and the Cavs fall to 6, I'm okay with that.
Because the Cavs have Memphis, Indiana, and Charlotte left, and they're all at home. So realistically, that Indy game is the huge one. If they can win all 3, which is very possible, they're in contention to be in the 2, 3, 4 spot. Absolutely. If they lose to Indiana and they lose one of those other games randomly, we've seen Charlotte and Memphis have just randomly beaten teams recently. It's possible. I mean, anything can happen. That's why it's hard to speculate, but I don't know. I definitely think I'm just, for argument's sake, in this podcast, I'm leaving things the way they are just to compare. If you're now, out of curiosity, you're Boston, you're set at 1 no matter what. If Philly and the Heat are the 7 and the 8 in whatever combination, who would you rather see in the first round?
The Heat.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I think I'd rather see Philly. Embiid's still kind of coming back. They don't have a ton of chemistry. I think if the Heat, and that scares me.
I think if I can avoid last year's MVP and one of the hardest people to guard and like strategize for.
Yeah, but he's also he's coming off knee surgery as a 7-footer. That is hard surgery to come back from and then be like super impactful and high energy.
He's going to make a huge impact.
Am I falling into the same trap again? Like, there's no way the Heat get out of the first round this year. They're just not as good as they've been. But
but they're getting healthy. That's the thing. Their injury report has been huge all season, and now they're getting healthy again. And I could see them pulling some nonsense.
I can't. Maybe I'm so in denial.
If they don't get Boston,
my heart can't handle it.
If they get anyone except Boston, couldn't you see it?
I think
Is there anyone in the East besides Boston that you're like, okay, they're a lock to win the first round? I don't think there's a single team where I'd be like, oh yeah, I think they'll definitely get out of the first round.
No, I think everything. I think 3 through 8 is fair game for anybody. All those teams can beat each other.
I think 2 through 8. I'm throwing the Bucks in there.
I think the Heat always do this thing every year. They made it out to play in last year. Were they the 7th seed last year? Who they play in the first round?
They played the Bucks in the first round to beat the Bucks.
The frustrated Bucks. It was what Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton still wasn't Chris Middleton. I think the Bucks were struggling. If you're the Boston Celtics and you see the Heat in the first round as the 8 seed, 1 versus 8, the Celtics sweep that series. The Boston Celtics are going to come in and they're going to be like,
I tend to agree. I think the Celtics are the one team where I'm like, yeah, they'll beat the Heat. But I don't think it's in like 4 or 5 games. I think it's 6 or 7.
I think the issue with the Heat every year is they have a first round matchup and they get hot and they win a series. Didn't Giannis miss time in that series?
He did. He got hurt. He got hurt.
Yeah, he missed like 2 games, right? And the Heat were up like 3-1 or something like that, right?
It matters. It definitely matters.
Right. So, and that's what happens every year with the Heat, right? They have an easy first round matchup. They start feeling good about themselves. They build a lot of confidence, and they're a very competent team, right? Like Jimmy Butler's not a pushover. Bam Adebayo is a great player.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of role players who can really contribute. And so I think if you face the Heat in the first round, not a big deal. You show up, you get your job done. It's a business, things like that. You knock them away easy. 5 games, 4 games, especially if you're the Boston Celtics. And then they get into the Heat, come into their second round, they feel good, they win, and then they win again, and they win again, right? And so I think if you stop the Heat early, there's no big deal. If you let the Heat stick around and keep it close, they're gonna go far. I think they're a great team at winning close games. Celtics aren't gonna have to play a close game against them if they're the 8 seed.
I think that's fair. All right, so now that we've gone through the Eastern Conference playoffs, I won't totally belabor the rest of these. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the draft and everything in the standings towards the end of the year and everything. I do want to point out that from our standings to now, the absolute glow-up kings are the Orlando Magic, going from our projected 12th spot to currently 4th with potential for 2nd.
I don't think we saw the
no, definitely did not see this coming. Yeah, absolutely not.
The Nets have been a lot worse than we thought, right?
Nets have been marginally worse.
11?
I mean, yeah, they're in 11th, but then I mean everything else we kind of like the Raptors. I don't think we necessarily envisioned
they traded away like all their starters,
and they did it early, and that matters. They did it early, and then quickly RJ both missed time. Scotty Barnes missed time. Like once that happens,
is Scotty Barnes out?
He missed time. I don't think he's out indefinitely.
I thought he had like season-ending surgery.
Oh, he might have actually. Yeah. See, I already forgot because they're just at this point the Raptors are irrelevant.
The Hornets were better than we thought.
Yeah. So like realistically, just there was some movement on the bottom. Like we had the Pistons
a little
higher.
Feel good, the Wizards. Yeah.
We nailed the Wizards at 14. Yeah.
And we were so excited. I think at the beginning of the season, we were like, Cade Cunningham's going to have a breakout year. This is going to be great.
Yeah. In all fairness, Cade individually has nice stats, but yeah, they stunk. They were pretty terrible.
They had 2 guys playing large roles on their team that at the trade deadline were no longer on rosters.
Yeah. Yeah. That sums it up.
That
and Monty Williams, it's just a disaster so far.
In our draft episode, we're gonna have to deep dive into like what the hell some of these teams do, because Detroit, Washington, and Charlotte is bleak.
Yeah,
and guess what? Terrible draft too.
And the draft sucks. Yeah.
And in the Western Conference, there's just some bleak situations. But
so let's swap over to the West then with that. We can start at the bottom. I mean, we were wrong on quite a few things here.
Who's at the bottom of the West?
I forced the Spurs are at the bottom of the West. The Spurs are a game behind the Blazers at the bottom of the West. So like we were okay.
I had them very high. I had the Spurs making the play-in. I thought Wembanyama was going to have this huge, massive impact, and he didn't. So
there are a few things I think we need to point out here. One, I drove the Mavericks down. I thought they were going to blow up with the Kyrie thing. That obviously didn't happen. So that's why they are far lower than. I mean, I basically forced us to put them at 11.
Kyrie and Luka are best friends now.
Yeah, and they did. I mean, to their credit, the deadline moves have worked, and they're like totally clicking on all cylinders. So fine. We were right. The Blazers are towards the bottom. The Rockets did better than we thought, but then like the Spurs and the Jazz, bad. We didn't
I think Ime
anticipate
Udoka is
Ja
showing
being
like a
hurt.
very confident
The
coach.
Grizzlies situation with everyone getting hurt, I don't think we saw coming. So I'm going to
No.
give us a little grace on that. Everything else though feels okay. I feel like we
Timberwolves
make
at 7.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think anyone really envisioned this to work the way it did. And I still think let's look at the current standings. The Timberwolves are currently sitting at I mean they're tied with the Nuggets at 1, but they have the tiebreaker, so they're 1. If you're a playing team and you're going to be the 8, aren't you hoping that they hold on to the 1 instead of the Nuggets?
The only reason why, if you're a play-in team in the West, that you're hoping that the Timberwolves are the 1 seed is because the play-in teams are the Lakers, the Phoenix Suns, the Golden State Warriors, like these battle-tested veteran teams
Let
that
me
want to
flip
play
this.
a
Let me
young
flip
team.
it. Let me flip it. The top 3 seeds all realistically have a shot at being the number 1 overall seed because it's
Sure.
the Timberwolves and the Nuggets are tied, and then the Thunder are a game back. Of those 3, if you're a playing team, rank them in the order that you want to play them.
I'd want to see Oklahoma City first. I think they're so young. I think if I'm like a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant, I step into that first round series and I absolutely talk my stuff. And
They're
I'm
solid though. I don't know.
oh, they're really solid, but they're really
Shea also needs to get right. He's definitely been hurt the last like I'd say probably upwards of a month. And he hasn't been
could
himself.
also
He's
just
missed a
be
lot of
them
time. When
pacing
he's played, he
themselves.
hasn't looked good. Yeah, I mean that's possible.
Like
But
if I'm LeBron and we're playing a 7 game series, how many switches am I gonna get? And Josh Giddey's gonna be forced to guard me, and I'm just gonna fucking eat all day, you
yeah,
know?
that and Chet, I mean, they really don't have an answer to size. So if they get a bad matchup and they have to play a big team, they're definitely in trouble.
I can't even imagine how Chet would hold up in a 7 game series against an Anthony Davis or a Yusuf Nurkic or
Nurkic, I'm not too worried about, but
I don't know. Nurkic can get in there and cause some havoc. I think
yeah,
early in the year,
maybe.
I was very impressed with the way Nurkic was able to play physical because that's what they needed. They just needed someone to be physical. And I think he ended up getting injured and missing some time and
I think a big problem
killing
for
that a
them is
little
if they
bit.
fall to 3. And let's again, just for argument's sake, let's say the Pelicans stay at 6. I think that's an awful matchup for the Thunder. Because you
Yes.
do. You have just a ton of size. You have a lot of guys that can play multiple positions and guard the Thunder who are like primed for that type of play.
Also,
That's the worst possible first round matchup for them.
another team that is dropped in the standings because their best player is not played. Brandon Ingram had that really awkward overextension. He's missed a lot of time here
Yeah.
late in the season, especially when these standings, again, like we're talking about the East 2 through 10, the West as well. So
Ooh, interesting. Woj. Drew Holiday has just agreed on a 4-year, $135 million extension with the Celtics.
that's a great extension for the Celtics. Drew
That's a
Holiday,
great, that's
winner.
great value.
Isn't
My
it
God,
weird?
135.
Isn't it weird considering wasn't Drew Holiday like considering retirement or something? Was
No,
that
I don't think so. I think he was just sad to be traded. I think he was like looking to like settle down and whatever.
I
interesting?
think Milwaukee did him dirty. I think
Well, I think it bit them in the ass, but
there's a little
whatever.
bit of nepotism going on in Milwaukee where, Giannis's brother was on the Giannis, his brother is still on the roster, and Brooke Lopez's brother was on the roster. Don't get me wrong, Robin Lopez is a competent basketball player. He had a long NBA career, but uh, there's definitely
Yeah.
something a little off in Milwaukee, top to bottom
Oh,
again.
for
So
sure. No, if they have a first round exit, where's the Windhorse meme? I'm looking pretty squarely at the Bucks this offseason to see what they're gonna do because it could get ugly very fast if they lose in the first round. Anyway, back to the West. After that, after Woj
I'll,
interrupted us.
I'll be honest, as we're talking about the Thunder, if the only team that I'm worried about as the standing currently stands is the Lake. I'm only worried about the Lakers. I think I'm fine playing the Suns and the Warriors, then the Kings, then the Lakers, if I had my choice out of the play-in.
Well, let's say the standings stay the way they are right now in the play-in in the West. You have the Suns at 7, the Kings at 8, the Lakers at 9, and the Warriors at 10. Who do you think comes out of that? Obviously, the Suns, I think, beat the depleted Kings. I think realistically, they're going to win that game. And
I think the
then
Lakers and the Suns come out. I don't think the Warriors
I
past
tend
two
to
seasons
agree.
have been a little upsetting. I think they're
Though in the Lakers game against the Warriors, I guess was that yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was. I mean, the Warriors broke a record for 3-point shooting in a game. Like, yeah, it's not necessarily
yeah.
going to happen, but that's Darvin Ham's coaching of just like leaving the Warriors open and daring them to make shots. Like,
Draymond
Darvin
was like
Ham's
5 for 5, wasn't he?
I don't trust Darvin Ham coaching a winner go home game. That's the only reason I'm skeptical of the
I
Lakers.
trust LeBron coaching a winner go home game.
Fine. That's a better way of looking at it. But yeah, and again, this is all subject to change considering the Suns are a game behind New Orleans for 6, but they're also only a game ahead of the Sacramento Kings for 7. The Kings are only a half game ahead of the Lakers for 8, and the Lakers are only a half game ahead of the Warriors for 9. So all of them could move.
Who did the Kings shut down? They shut down Malik Monk and someone else.
Kevin Huerter.
Kevin Huerter.
Yeah.
So they
still have their
guys.
best guys, don't get me wrong, but they're still missing important pieces. Although they might come back if they make the playoffs. I think they were only like 4 or so week injuries, but they're just not going to be back when it matters.
Right.
So anyway, that's the play-in landscape. The fun development here that I think we're almost certainly going to be locked into now. I don't really think anything changes in the next 6 days before the end of the season. Is we're going to get Clippers against the Mavericks. We're just getting another Luka against the Clippers first round matchup. This is so fun. Like I can't believe it's like, and I think Kawhi is obviously injured. That's scary. They have a lot of injuries. Harden looks hurt. Paul George finally is starting to look like himself again, and they're getting Russ back. But yikes, it might happen again.
Clippers are an interesting team. I can never tell what's going on. They have such a deep roster.
I also think that it's an inflection point for both teams. So depending on the outcome of that first round, that's really going to determine what happens to both of them in the near term, I think. They're going to have to take a really hard look at what they need to do to not get eliminated in the first round.
So let me ask you something, because I personally have an opinion on this, but I'm curious what you two think. I think if realistically we are, that's going to be the 4-5 matchup. One of the Clippers or the Mavericks are going to lose in the first round. That's just kind of the way it's going to go. Which of them do you think is in more trouble if they lose?
Clippers.
I agree. I think the Mavericks did enough this season where they kind of figured things out to basically say, we want a full year with this, and then we'll see. Before Luka hits any point of being like, I'm tired of this, I'm out of here. I think if the Clippers lose, there's a chance Paul George walks. You have to figure out what you're doing with Harden. Lord knows what's happening with Russ and whatever. Like, they are kind of at a weird inflection point where they need to go a little far in these playoffs. Or do you start thinking about like making some real serious changes?
I think there are 2 or 3 superstars on the Los Angeles Clippers roster who wouldn't leave. I want to say 2. Russell Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard, I don't think are going anywhere.
I tend to agree.
Paul
Kawhi
George
signed the extension, but yeah,
so
I think
exactly,
it's weird that the Paul George one hasn't happened yet.
I think Paul George is playing it smart, right? I think he's probably having an open dialogue with the Clippers, but also weighing his options elsewhere. I think Paul George is from the Los Angeles area, right? I think that's why he went back there. So maybe he wants to say, maybe he doesn't. I think when you think about like another team who has a similar type of vibe, the Knicks, right? And there's a lot of talk about some of our free agent signings. Obviously, we're not trying to retain Paul George, but a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, I think it's so huge that he's like, I want to be here.
Right. No, and Paul George has said, I mean, he has said he wants to be a Clipper. It's just like he understands the business.
Right. And if there's a better opportunity in, let's say, Indiana to go win a championship, he'll take that. And, there's
a few places I can see him going. And I can save this for the offseason podcast, but I don't know. If you're Philly, that is tempting.
Yeah. I mean, I think Paul George is an incredibly versatile player, can play 1 through 4 probably, and does everything well. So he has a lot of great fits and a lot of opportunities, but the Clippers are in a bad situation. I don't know if you do you even consider bringing Harden back at what he wants to get paid? I don't know.
Do you have a choice now after that trade? I mean, I guess you didn't give up that much for him, but
you gave up what, like Batum and Marcus Morris and
they gave up a first. No, am I making that up?
Yeah, but how valuable is that first?
I don't know.
At 24, I don't know.
I don't know. I do just think it's interesting to have, I just think there's so much riding on that series. Like, it really can be defining for both franchises if they win it.
The
I
first
feel like
round of
that's
the,
not necessarily true about any of the others.
I don't know. I think the first round in the Western Conference is going to be electric. I think all the games are going to be pretty close, especially because when you look at the play-in and who's going to be coming out of the play-in, those teams are going to be trying to beat the teams at the top, and the teams at the top will be challenged early. So,
Yeah,
whereas
I
in
think
the
that's
East, like
true.
the Celtics aren't going to get challenged.
As a consumer, there's the potential in just the play-in alone to have LeBron play Steph, and then Steph or LeBron play Kevin Durant. So like you're seeing like some of the best players ever in not even the first round of the
My
playoffs.
dream play-in, which was shaping up like probably a month ago, was it was going to be some combination of the Suns, the Mavericks, the Lakers, and the Warriors. Like that would have been the best play-in ever.
Yeah.
It would have.
Just superstars.
Granted, selfishly, I'm happy the Mavericks made it out just because I think they're more fun to watch in the actual playoffs. But yeah, I would like to see. Ideally, what would happen is we would have the Suns somehow become the sixth, the Pelicans fall in, and then the Lakers and the Warriors make the playoffs. I just think they're more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably what the NBA wants. I think there's just more money in having those two teams sneak in and having all three of them get in rather than only two. But we'll see.
A lot of talent in the league.
There is a lot of talent in the league.
I think what's
But
most important to the NBA is that the Knicks are in the playoffs.
oh, I mean they might be the two, and they might be playing Philly or Miami in the first round.
You guys will find out.
Um, so now I want to circle back to the top of the West. Do we think the Nuggets are really just they're just going to make the finals? Like, is there anyone that you're really worried about?
I think the Nuggets could drop a couple games in a series, but I don't see them losing a 7-game series this year.
I think the rest of these teams are a little too incomplete and inconsistent or inexperienced. Like, none of them feel as conditioned as the Nuggets.
And injury is the only thing that would.
Yeah, definitely. But
And
again, I mean that goes for a lot of teams. But yeah,
I'll go even farther to say that I don't see them losing 7 games to Boston.
really,
I really don't. I really don't.
this Boston team has been running teams over.
I do not know how they are going to guard Jokic.
Yeah,
I'm really good about my MVP pick, by the way.
I don't think I don't think Kristaps Porzingis has it in him to guard
No.
Jokic.
And
I think yeah.
go. Sorry.
On the wing, when you think about like a Tatum Brown matchup against Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., there's a lot of guys out there. Even KCP can guard. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think them having Drew this year because we're just getting a rematch of last year. So like, or no, wait, who made the finals? Did he make the finals?
Heat Nuggets.
He made the finals. Jesus, I'm collapsing. I was thinking of the Warrior series. No, I do think it makes a huge difference having Drew. I think that could probably rein in what Jamal Murray is able to do.
I think it would be great to have.
Derek White has been playing great, like sneaky. He's been probably their most valuable player. So I don't know. I think I'm a little more bullish on Boston than the two of you, but yeah, the Nuggets just feel too like a well-oiled machine.
It revolves around Jokic, right? You think about Drew Holiday, great point of attack defender. If the Celtics had to play the Kings in the finals, easy matchup. De'Aaron Fox is going to get locked up. But because everything kind of like runs through Jokic, no one player ever has like a need to have the ball at any moment. They all just move so well together, and Jokic as a hub. And I just don't see Drew Holiday's defensive impact making a huge difference. Go ahead, Mike.
I'll play devil's advocate in the West. Who do you think could even get to the final, if not Denver?
I think you can make it. I think you can make a case for a lot of these teams. I think it depends on the way that standings shake out. I think the Clippers, if they're healthy, yes. I mean, the way they were playing in January, oh my God, they looked pretty unbeatable. I think the Timberwolves are so uniquely constructed that if Cat comes back and looks good, I could see it. I could.
And
it would take a lot, but I could see it.
And if Ant does the playoff leap.
Right. Because I think they have the size to kind of handle the Nuggets that a lot of these other teams don't. So it really does depend on the path. But beyond that, I don't think the Thunder, I don't think the Lakers, granted they are scorching hot right now, but no, I don't really see it. The Pelicans are playing well, but you're right with the Brandon Ingram stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's probably just those three. The
Gotta be
the Mavericks are hot too, but same thing. They don't really have anyone to handle Jokic.
And Luka Doncic is a liability defensively. So
Yeah, I mean they're gonna switch, and same with Kyrie, really. So
and PJ Washington and Daniel
yeah,
Gafford and the rest of their roster. So
all things considered, though, I'm pretty pumped. Like we have playoff basketball in a week and a half,
I am,
and
man.
not even we have the play-in in less than a week. It starts next week.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, like that's huge.
All right, here's my last question, or my only question, I guess. Just where do you think the Knicks are going to land since we're Knicks fans? What, like, your heart of hearts match?
Most likely scenario, we're at 3.
You
So
think?
I think yeah. We maybe we're in Boston. We're in
we
Boston
have to-
Thursday. Boston might sit everyone. Then you just have at home the Nets and the Bulls. That feels like you could go 3-0, and if the Bucks lose,
we have to go 3-0, and the Bucks have to lose
at
two
least
of
two.
the last 3.
They have to
right?
lose two. Yeah.
So I think the reason why we're the 3 is not is because we don't control our destiny of 2
Yeah,
or 3. It's
that's
because we have to
true.
rely on other teams to make it happen for us.
We're gonna be 3, and it's gonna be so annoying when the Pacers aren't the 6.
We have to play the Heat in the first round.
Yeah, it's gonna something stupid's gonna happen, and it's gonna suck.
We're gonna have to play the Magic in the first round.
Maybe I would take that. I would honestly, I'd take that over Miami or Philly for sure.
I think it's gonna be a very physical series, no matter what.
Oh yeah,
Best case scenario, we play the Pacers and we out physical them. Same with the Cavs.
I'm pumped though. I mean, it's good that OG's back. It's a shame that Randall's hurt. It's weird. If this team was fully healthy, I could see him coming out of the Eastern Conference. As crazy
Randall
as that
was back.
sounds. If they had Randall. If this
I think
team
we
was
could
complete, I
challenge
think they could do it.
Boston.
Yeah. But figures that's just not the case. Is what it is. We got, what did Josh Hart say? I'm going in as if this is the team we've got.
Yeah, this is the team we've got. I think it's
Yeah.
great to see OG back out there. I still don't think he's 100%. He had a big game last night, but still struggling to find his rhythm a little bit.
Fortunately, they have a week and a half to figure it out.
Very fortunately.
Yeah. So all right. We're back. This is the Hoop True podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll definitely be doing this more as the playoffs start up. Well, what are you about to say?
Yeah, we should probably do when the 8 teams are set.
Yeah, next week. Let's absolutely rattle one off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for those of you who made it this far, this is the Hoop True podcast. Thank you for joining, and tune in next time.